Welcome to the Grass and Roots podcast. My name is Tori, and this is the show where we dive into powerful conversations with incredible individuals who are making a difference in their communities. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Jennifer Landry, who is a passionate advocate for youth and the co-founder of Speaking to Inspire Through Experience. Over the years, Jennifer has dedicated herself to empowering young people and bridging the communication gap between parents and children. In today's episode, we'll explore Jennifer's inspiring journey into youth advocacy, the vision behind her organization, and how it's evolved since its founding. We'll also discuss how mentorship plays a crucial role in her work and the lasting impact she's having on the Lafayette community. So whether you're a parent, mentor, or someone looking to make a difference in the lives of young people, you won't want to miss this conversation with Jennifer. All right. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining me today. I want to first start by asking about you and your journey. You're a community organizer and are very involved, and also are very involved in youth advocacy and that kind of work. So can you share more about what got you into that and your just kind of initial steps into doing this kind of work?
Definitely. So, I have actually been an advocate. Well, first I started off as a member. I was a member of an organization of Families and Friends of Louisiana's Incarcerated Children. Um, and being a member in that, I just kind of looked at the youth and the need that the youth needed in the community. Flick is about restorative justice, rehabilitation for youth. And, I agree with that 110%. So, um, being a member, I saw the need and they asked me to lead a chapter here in Lafayette, and being able to work in a community with the parents and seeing these parents go through tough situations with their kids that are, either incarcerated or at risk of the school to prison pipeline. I just felt the need to do something. I felt that I had to help in some type of way.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's pretty much.
Great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's really great to hear. So I want to hear more about your organization Speaking to Inspire Through Experience, because I know what you just said about the community and parents. That's a part of that organization and the way that that kind of works. So can you go more into depth on what led you to start that, and then more about what you guys do over there?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll say this: whenever we initially started thinking about speaking to inspire through experience, it was just going to be workshops. So it was
Hmm.
going to be just me conducting workshops with parents and their kids, because in 2016 I lost my daughter. So my daughter was murdered in 2016, and I think I wanted to do workshops centered about, kind of getting them to build a gap, a communication gap, because a lack of communication, I think, in my opinion, um, played a part in me not knowing exactly what was going on in my daughter's life. She was killed due to a domestic violence situation at the age of 17 years old. So I think if we would have had an open line of communication, or if she would have been able to come to me and tell me some of the things she was experiencing, in her relationship, I could have intervened and things would have probably, went a different route. So that's what I my initial thing was gonna be, just workshops. And as I started bringing that to the community, I saw a greater need for not only communication, but just grounding in the lives of the kids and, the parents, So I felt like I wanted to help them not only communicate, but just get them working in the community, teaching them a little bit about, you know, education and advocacy, and just teaching them everything that they can learn. So that's how the mentorship part came about. and we also do speaking. So we do, my husband and I both, we are, co-founders. We also do speaking engagements in schools, so we do that as well. And that's, we just pretty much tell the youth about some of the things we've gone through, and that's that experience part, speaking to inspire through the experience that we've endured. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I love what you said about the communication and that connection that can be
Mm-hmm.
missing sometimes. And that's so necessary in this type of work.
Mm-hmm.
I know in past episodes, I feel like it always, that's the root of a lot of this stuff is just we need to communicate better with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you navigate that? What's your strategy in focusing on bettering that communication, between parents or amongst youth or in all these
Mm-hmm.
different ways? What's your strategy there?
Well, I always start off by talking about my story.
Mm-hmm.
I think once I talk to parents, and their youth, talk about what I've experienced, then
Mm-hmm.
that kind of opens the door. And a lot of people, they could never imagine. I am, how they say that, I don't look like what I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always smiling and I'm always happy. But once I sit down with a parent and I really tell them exactly what I've gone through, they relate. They can
Mm-hmm.
absolutely relate. They were like, wow, yeah, you're right. I don't talk to my child, or she doesn't come and talk to me, or he's out there and we don't talk. So that's how I always started off. Just telling them a little bit about me and my backstory with my children, not just my daughter that passed away, but my other two. I have three children.
Mm-hmm.
So I just open that up, and that always, brings them in.
That's really cool. Um, how do families respond to some of the programs or the mentorship that you offer? What kind of impact have you been able to see in the families that you're helping and in your community?
So, and I'm gonna be transparent. So,
Mm-hmm.
we've helped quite a few. We've helped quite
Mm-hmm.
a few parents, and they really, they love it. They love what we do, even after they finish our program, because it's a structured program. So it's after they finish the structural part, we still communicate with them. I still have mentees that call me. We take them to the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they really really like it, but I'll tell you this, what I noticed in Lafayette. I love Lafayette, trust me, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just an issue in general. I say that in general. A lot of times you have parents who are dealing with their youth. Their babies are going through something, and that's when you hear from them. You hear from them when their backs are against the wall.
Right.
When their backs are against the wall. But when a few months ago, Chad and I put on an event, and you would think it would be a packed house. It was a free event.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to pay anything. Just come out, bring your babies, drop your babies off. You would think it would have been a packed house, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people don't take the opportunity to get involved when something that's handed to them, because our program is free, until their backs are against the wall. And
Mm-hmm.
then they want to come out and say, well, I don't have this, or I didn't have that, or nobody did. Yeah, it was there. We
Mm-hmm.
promote our nonprofit all through Lafayette, social media. But again, either you find them, those that are court ordered.
Mm-hmm.
If they're court, that means they're court ordered. The judge told you have to enroll your child into this. Again, their backs are against the wall, or any other excuse. I'll say excuse because that's what it is. It's excuses. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, you help who wants to be helped, and that's what we do. We never turn our backs. We're gonna
Yeah.
always help. Always. But people have to want the help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like I've heard this echoed, like I said, with other issues too, of just
Mhm.
people I don't know, sometimes people just don't pay attention as much until it really
Mm-hmm.
affects them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have any ideas on how, or I guess, are there any things that you and Chad do to try and be more proactive? I know you said you share everything about your organization, but are there any ideas of how could we change that? How could we make people put in more effort? I know it's a hard thing to answer because it's like you can't really get in people's heads, but how can we get to a point where people look to their neighbors and their friends and people in community to help them with problems? You know, a lot of us have solutions already, but we have to just be able to look outside and find where we can get help.
Yeah. Um. Again, oh goodness,
Yeah.
that's a hard one. I mean,
Uh-huh.
all I think all we can do is just continue to promote ourselves.
Mhm.
We have a wonderful board. So my board consists of some amazing people. My board president is actually a school board member. So he sits on the
Mhm.
school board and he has his hands in every hat. I'm not gonna say a lot of hats. Every hat.
Yeah.
Everything. And he promotes it. So
Mhm.
I think we're doing our part.
Mhm.
It's just the parents have to do their part.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
should not wait until Billy is arrested or
Mhm.
Billy is, in the hospital because somebody done Billy something. Whenever the
Mhm.
help is right there. And I don't mean just speaking to inspire. All resources.
Mhm.
There are a lot of resources out there, but people just don't take advantage of them. And we can only do what we can do. We can just continue to share social media, flyers, put on events, and we'll put on an event. And if, let's just say, 3 people showed up, guess what? We didn't touch 3 people. So that's fine.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking, but it's fine.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's, we're just gonna have to continue to fight and continue to push, and continue to believe that one
Mhm.
day things will change, because I
Yeah.
mean we're pretty connected,
Mhm.
even though we're not from this area, we've grown to know some great people in this town. So
Mhm.
there are people that Chad and I can pick up the phone and just call and say, "Hey, we need you," and they coming. And
Mhm.
when I say big
Mhm.
people, this is people that like sits legislators that sit at the Capitol. They, yeah. So
Mhm.
we got some good people backing us up. But
Mhm.
again, we can only do what we can.
Sure. Yeah, I think you put it kind of like perfectly. If there's only so much an individual can do. The consistency is going to speak for itself, right? People that you're
Mhm.
helping, it speaks for itself. I want to hear more specifically about like what the program looks like. You said it was
Mhm.
structured. Can you take me
Mhm.
through what you kind of do and what that looks like?
Sure. So it is a 12-week program. So it's 12 weeks, and we cover different things throughout the 12 weeks, such as conflict resolution. We teach them about conflict resolution and how to control anger. Um, we do career exploration, to where we teach them how to write resumes. We teach them how to interview. Job shadowing, so they have the opportunity to shadow someone at work. We do, of course, the workshop with the parent and the youth is the communication piece. They Parents and youth attend that. We do team building, where we go to the escape room and they work together to try to get up out of the escape room as a team. We also do mental health and substance abuse awareness, and community building, where we go out in the community and give back in some type of way. So that, and one, I think I created the workshop for, so the last one is community building, and I'm sorry, I got to community building, advocacy, and we also teach them about voting and things like that. So
Mhm.
each portion of it, well, not each of them, maybe two or three of them, I created the whole workshop. So I
Mhm.
created the workshop, how it plays out, everything. I sat down and I created every piece of it.
Mhm.
So
That's
yeah, I love
amazing.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Do you have a, since you made it all, do you have a favorite part or one that you think is like just a really important part of the program, most important part?
Of course, look, of course, is my baby, the communication piece.
Yeah.
That communication piece, and not
Yeah.
only is my favorite because that one is so much detail. Again, parents don't have to participate in anything, but it is a requirement that they participate in that part.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
and it's not just it's fun, it's absolutely fun. They have the opportunity to have lunch together, sit down together, talk, listen, play games, win
Mhm.
prizes, so it's really fun. It's a
Mhm.
fun workshop, but it's also very, very, informative and very special.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's amazing that you're doing that, especially like the fun part of it too. It's so
Mhm.
impactful and the learning is really important. But just
Mhm.
having a space, just a positive, healthy environment for kids to be in is really great. And I feel like we're losing spaces like that sometimes. I know in one of my past episodes we were talking about libraries and book bans and just like losing spaces like that are free where you
Mhm.
can go and enjoy and learn. And so I think it's really cool that you have that and that you created that sort of space and
Thank
environment.
you.
I'm curious to. I also want to ask about um, if like the mentorship, I guess part of it. How do you ensure that the mentors, or I guess I should ask, who are the mentors, and then how do you kind of ensure that you're well equipped to be a mentor?
So the mentor is only two of us, me and Chad.
There you go. So that's how you know.
Yeah, so it's just me and him. So we
Uh-huh.
eventually we hope for it to blow up huge to where we have to get other people to come in, and don't get me wrong, we get a lot of people that actually want to volunteer to be mentors,
Mhm.
but right now it's just him and I.
Mhm.
And I'm a mom, he's a dad. So he's been through things and I've been through probably 10 times more, or vice
Mhm.
versa. So
Mhm.
I think we are very equipped.
Yeah,
Yeah. We do it, and I do a lot of study. Yeah. I do a lot of studying.
definitely.
Him too. Oh goodness, him too.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, eventually Eventually, oh God, I'm gonna wait till you. I think that's one of your questions, so I'm gonna wait till the last one. I mean, till you get to that question.
No, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Go ahead. It probably, if you answer before I ask, that's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, two thing. Well, one thing. One of my goals, and
Mhm.
hopefully that'll happen, 2025 or 2026.
Mhm.
I want a facility. I want a building. I absolutely want a building because I want to do reentry.
Mhm.
And that's for youth that are incarcerated and when they come out. You always
Mhm.
hear about reentry, but it's adults. But I want to do something for the youth, and they'll have a social worker to help them. And I have a business plan, like literally, I have a whole business plan for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
done. I just need my building.
Yeah.
And something else that I want to work on, and I'm trying to get it together this year, is going to be my year. I want to do something um peer to peer. So peer to peer,
Mhm.
like a peer to peer talk line, or peer
Mhm.
to peer, like you train. I want to train some youth to be able to answer the call of duty. When you have a youth that's going through something, all they have to do is pick up the phone and dial into a peer and have someone to talk to them that's their age, that can help
Mhm.
them uh, get through something that they may be experiencing um, at that moment. So
Mhm.
that's something I'm working on this year too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how you It's so true that you and Chad are like such so equipped to be mentors. 'Cause you always use your own journey and your own story to like navigate this work, which is great and so important. I wanted to ask, you mentioned this is a conversation I think we've had before, but I know you've talked about you mentioned it here with reentry, where you said a lot of times we talk about it with adults, but not with kids. And I know I've heard you before talk about this too. So I'm just curious to ask why do you think sometimes we do leave kids behind in conversations like this, whether it's about reentry or the criminal justice system or housing or any sort of topic like that? I agree with you where I think sometimes we forget about kids in this situation or about youth. So why do you think that is?
I don't know, honestly. I think at the moment people just focus more on adults, and I think because they are adults, I don't know. Let me see. How can I put it? You always hear about adults. You always hear
Mhm.
about adults going through something, and a lot of times you don't think when you think reentry, you're thinking about these adult people
Mhm.
getting out of a prison, and they're gonna have to have somewhere to go, or they need housing, or they need this and that. But I think, and not to mention, a lot of people have the thing to where they, I guess, because they're kids, they feel when they get out of there, oh, they be able to go with their mom and their dad, and they gonna be good. Mom and dad gonna take care of them. But that's not the case. Sometimes mom and dad got their hands tied. They
Mhm.
can't pay bills. They can't, they don't know how to teach their children because maybe they've gone through something. So that's where I would love to step in and have that. I want to work with the parents too, teach
Mhm.
them, because a lot of times, again, parents just don't know. They have no idea. So you may have a mom who's struggling, got 5 kids in the house, and you got one fixing to come out of the detention center, and you don't know what to do. Well, guess what? Let me help you.
Mhm.
Let's get you counseling. Let's get you some therapy. Let's get a social worker to come in there and guide you.
Mhm.
If you time for the baby to get back to school, come on, let's get him some uniforms. Let's hook him up with a tutor. Things like that. And I say a building because I want to also have a space for them to cool down. You may have youth that are going through something at home, or mom and them, they didn't got into it. Well, guess what? We got a little room for you. You can come cool down for a couple of hours. A little
Mhm.
cool down area. Just to kind of get your head back in the game. Come in
Sure.
here, play on the game, play it on the computer. Let's just kind of cool down a little bit. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's all it takes. You'd be surprised how many kids we've come across that are so just rugged. They're just mad and angry, but the moment you show them love, that shell just falls. It
Mhm.
falls. I've seen that.
Mhm.
I've seen a little boy just angry, but the moment I said, "Come here, let's sit down and have a talk," he
Mhm.
talked to me and cried like a baby because he was going through something at home. So I love that. I love what I do. I love to be able to talk to these children, and a lot of them relate to me. They relate to me. Some of them relate more to Chad, but a lot, some of them to me, because I'm that mama. Okay. I'm that mama. I'm going to tell you what you're doing is wrong, but I'm not going to talk down to you. We're
Mhm.
going to sit right here, face to face and eye to eye. You want to talk about TikTok? Let's talk about TikTok. How many followers you got? I can
Mhm.
tell you how many I got, how many you got. What's the latest trend? That's
Uh-huh.
look, I get them all the time. We be sitting down laughing and clowning, and they inbox me now on Facebook and say, "Hey, Miss Jen, I just want to tell you thank you so very much. I appreciate what you did." You know,
Mhm.
I you know, I get on their level. We have a conversation. I'm not gonna talk down on them, and I'm not gonna beat them up for a mistake that they made,
Mhm.
because it's a mistake.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love that you have such a holistic approach to not only talking to kids and, like you said, like getting on their level, just talking to them like people, because so many people don't really know how to navigate that relationship. But then also you focus on the parents too, which is great and really
Mhm.
important. So I think that's very cool. I'm curious. We're in Louisiana. We're in election season. We're happening right now. Early vote, or I guess early voting just ended. But we had brought up the justice system and we're talking about youth, so I'm sure you know what I'm about to ask you about. But I just want your opinion. What are your thoughts of Amendment number 3 on this ballot for March 29th? For those of you that don't know in the audience, in Louisiana, we have an election happening. Early voting just ended. We have an election on March 29th. And Amendment 3, or I guess, Jennifer, I'll let you give Amendment 3, talk about it a little bit. I do have a podcast episode about the amendment. So if anyone is watching and curious, you can watch one of my past episodes. But I'll let you go ahead, Jen, and then tell me just your thoughts on it. I'm sure I can already guess, but.
All right. So look, right now I'm gonna take off my executive director nonprofit organization hat off because in nonprofit organization we're not supposed to say yay or nay. But
Right.
I'm gonna educate you a little bit. So with Amendment 3, they want to make it to where the legislature can determine what is a felony when it comes to your babies. Kids as young as 10 can be tried as an adult for a simple crime. Um, let's just say youth stealing a piece of bubble gum from the store. Well, if they want to decide that that is a felony offense, then they can lock this child up with adults in adult facilities. Um, am I against that? Definitely. Definitely. First of all, what does a 10-year-old know about committing a felony? You know, their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until 25 years old. So they are kids. They make mistakes. You know, children make mistakes. And them going to an adult facility with grown men and women, no, I don't agree with that at all. I had a conversation the other day. I went to the Capitol to actually speak on Amendment 3. I went to the Capitol with an organization that I'm a part of. And when I went in there, I had on my shirt from the organization that said "No Kids in Angola." The lady who checks you in, she stopped me and she was like, please, why do you what does that mean? Do you agree with that? And I said, of course. Kids don't belong in Angola. She said, well, why? I said, because they don't. She said, well, you don't think if this person committed this crime, they should not be in prison? I said, I never said that. What I said was children do not belong in Angola. Kids, and she went back and forth with me for a long time. She said, well, what if you had a child? I say, let me stop you right there. I did have a child. I say my child was murdered at the hands of another youth, and I said he don't belong in Angola. She said, "Well, you mean to tell me?" She said, "I wish I can be that strong." I say, "Ma'am, not everybody is like me. Not everybody thinks like I think." I say, "But no, I think that the person that did that to my child was dealt a bad hand all his life. He had no guidance." I say, did I always feel like this? No. In the very beginning, when this happened, I didn't want nothing more than this person to pay for what he did to my child. Does that mean that he should not suffer consequences? No, he should definitely suffer consequences, but he also needs services while he's there. You know, so we went back and forth. This lady kept me there. I was running late for my to get in the boardroom. But I don't believe you should be with adults in adult facilities. I don't believe a 10-year-old should be in prison. I don't believe that. I don't believe a teenager should be in prison. I believe now, again, I do believe in consequences, but I do believe in resources, rehabilitation, education, and just asking them, why did you do this?
Hmm.
What happened to you? Because a lot of times something happened. So what happened to you? And that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to ask you because I mean, the election will be over by the time this comes out, but I wanted to ask you because you had brought that up in one of your earlier responses of, sometimes kids make mistakes, and I've heard your story before, so I just wanted to hear that for this episode because I just do love your perspective on it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's true. Kids shouldn't be in Angola or in prisons in general. Okay. Well, my last question before, or one of my last questions before we close out, if anyone wanted to get involved in this type of work, what would your advice be to them? People that want to get involved in their community and help others like you do.
Do it. Do it. Definitely do it. Do it. Do it. It it it's a great feeling. It's purposeful. I mean, it's amazing. You'll be helping somebody, and a lot of times when you help people, you get that good feeling on the inside. That yeah, it's amazing. I would always advise somebody to get out there and help if they want to. If that's their passion, then yeah, definitely go out and do it.
I actually want to ask you one more thing. I don't
Mhm.
know why it just came to mind, but what does your how do politics play in your work in it at all, if any way? Like, what does holding elected officials accountable look like to you? Voting, what does that
Mhm.
all play in your work? What role does that play?
So right now, well, GOT, we do a lot of GOTV. I have videos all over the place. We have been hitting the streets every single day,
Mm-hmm.
every day. Making sure or asking people to get out and vote on these amendments. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, it plays a great part. And of course, you want to hold systems accountable because if you don't get out there and you know tell them about themselves, they're going to continue to think that they can do whatever they're doing, walk over us. And a lot of times some these decisions that they are making will affect us 110%. It affects us. So getting out there and letting everyone know the importance of voting is yeah, that's a goal. That is an
Yeah.
absolute, because you have a lot of people. Honestly, you have people that are convicted felons that have no idea they can vote. I've
Mm-hmm.
come across a lot of them. They say, "Oh, I'm a convicted felon." That don't mean that. Let's go get you registered. Let's register you to vote. Or I didn't know. We came across a bunch of people recently that said, "I didn't know there was an election going on." Yes, ma'am. Here's what's on the ballot. Now go vote. So yeah,
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for being
you're
here.
welcome.
You're it's always great to talk to you. Your work is so inspiring and so genuinely impactful. The work you do in your community, I feel like everybody in Lafayette, every time I talk to anyone there, they know who you are, they know you in chat, and they know about your guys' work. So what you guys do is
Thank
really, really incredible. And like I
you.
said, I just love the very holistic overview that you have when working with the youth, that you work with them, you meet people where they're at, and you also work with parents, and you work on communication and also the election stuff on the other end of it. Like, I just think it's also amazing. So
Thank.
thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you want to add or share or leave our listeners with before we close out?
No. I mean, I'm. Thank you for having
Yeah, of
me.
course. Thank you so much.